Old Dr. Harvey Springer, who was a well-known cowboy evangelist for many years in this country, had his headquarters out in Denver, Colorado. Old Dr. Harvey Springer used to say to the preachers, "Don't tell me how many you had in Sunday school. Let me see your kids. There's nothing that impresses me any more than good children. Nothing." I'm glad that Freeman Gouge has done a great work on the island of Anguilla. I'm glad that he founded the Dyer Baptist Church, our sister church out here, with whom we have splendid and sweet fellowship. I'm glad that he's a faithful servant of God, and I believe God's going to use him in Iceland. He says he's going to Ireland, but he can't. I've been announcing it all day. It's Iceland. It must be changed. And I think he'll do a good job there. But I'll be honest with you, Freeman. There's not a single thing I've ever heard you say or seen you do that's impressed me like your children. Not a thing. I mean, brother, that's impressive. This man right over here, Dr. Hilton, was considering coming to work here. He's come now. He's considering working still. But he was considering coming to work here. And he was praying about it. He was down at Chattanooga, Tennessee. And they were walking down the street downtown. I hope if this is not correct, you let me know after a while and I'll change it. But he said, somebody said, "You know who that girl is there, or young lady is?" And he said, "No." He said, "That's Becky Smith, the daughter of Dr. Jack Hyles." And Brother Hilton said, "Don't say anything to her. Let's just follow her and see how she does." And is that true? And they followed her. And Dr. Hilton said she was a perfectly charming young lady. I think he said they followed in J.C. Penney Company or some store, watched her she traded, watched how she acted, watched her personality, her dress, and so forth. And one of the reasons Dr. Hilton is here is because of Becky. He was at the Bill Rice Ranch, and somebody said, that boy over there, little boy, teenager, said, "You know who he is?" Said, "No, who is this?" That's Dave Hyles, Dr. Jack Hyles' boy. And Dr. Hilton said, "I don't want him to know it, but I'm going to watch him this week." And Dr. Hilton said he was the hardest working boy on the campus, best soul winner on the ranch during that week. And Dr. Hilton was sold on our ministry because of Becky and because of David. Now, he's announcing his resignation. He's been here closer and got a closer look. And so he'll be leaving us soon, I'm sure. But anyway, I just don't know of anything that impresses me anymore. Don't tell me about how big a church you have if your kids go to the devil. Now, I'm not scolding you folks tonight who've had misfortune and your children have not been a credit to you. I'm not scolding you. God knows my heart goes out to you in tender, loving compassion. But we need some old-fashioned child rearing and raising. I mean, in our homes. I've said before, I'll say it again. Our church has a wonderful youth program. We can't do it without the home. Nowhere in the world. Nowhere in the world. You can't just drive your child up to Hammond Baptist Grade School and then let him go to grade school, high school, and college, and all the youth programs of the church. Now, we'll do our best. But, brother, what we need more than we need anything in the world is some old-fashioned Christian homes to rear our kids. They ought to be reared. Now, that's all there is to it. Now, I've seen a lot of kids turn out good, and I've seen a lot of kids turn out bad. Now, if you want to rear a bum, the first thing I'd suggest that you do, and don't take notes. I don't want folks. You can buy the tape. I need the money. But I want you to hear me. I'm not giving you a lecture tonight. I'm preaching you a sermon. First thing I want you to do is when you hear you have a baby, I want you to lay out of church because you're going to get fat and ugly. Just don't go to church while you're pregnant. You wouldn't want to do that. I thank God these ladies around here who just keep on coming. While Miss Bordwell's singing here when she couldn't even reach the pulpit with her hands. Had to like that. And dear Mrs. Streeter, if she didn't come to church while she was pregnant, she wouldn't have been to church in 15 years. Now, I don't care if you do waddle when you walk. I don't care if you do get as fat as you can be. I don't care if you do turn a pale kind of a color. I don't care if you do. Dr. Rice says wear those hatching jackets, maternity clothes, or eternity clothes. I don't care if you do. You just come on to church. The kind of woman that lay out of church just because she's pregnant is the kind of woman that's off to a good start and rearing a bum already. Poor little kid hasn't got a chance. You say, what's the good is it going to do to the kid to go to church before he's born? I don't know, but some good. My mother said to me when she was carrying me, and I weighed 11.5 pounds when I was born. My mother said she was carrying me. She said she read all the time because she wanted me to be brilliant. Now that proves what I'm trying to say, folks. It's a perfect illustration of what I'm trying to say. I mean, it's important that you say, you're not so smart, but think what a moron I'd have been if she hadn't read. That's what I'm trying to say. So just stay at home. After all, you're big and you're fat and you need to leave the service a lot, and preachers won't get on you if you do. And just stay home. After all, you can get as good a Christian home as you can in church. And by the way, you'll be all started in rearing a bum. By the way, too, when the baby's born, keep him home for several weeks because the nursery is awfully full. And the line is horrible up there. And there are germs in that nursery. Of course, there are none in your house. I've been to some of your houses. Our nursery is the international center of hygiene compared to some of your houses. I'm saying, if you want to rear a bum, you just keep the child out of the nursery, and if you do bring the child to church, bring him into service. That way you can start early disturbing other people. And if the preacher says anything about it, you get good and mad, and huff and puff and walk out, and hey, move your membership to another church. That way you can get him to go to the devil real quick. I mean, you can take away from the entire influence of our church. Don't let him go to our schools because you've been offended. He's on his way to being a bum. And then don't. By the way, keep him in church during the service. And the preacher asks you to remove him. Get mad, and also let the child keep you from soul winning. When you have a little baby, you shouldn't go soul winning. You know, you need to stay home. After all, that little baby needs you. And you shouldn't go soul winning. And then also, teach him to say no while he's real little. That's one of the cutest things he can say. And it'll help him become a bum faster than most anything. Teach him to say no. No. And laugh at him when he does it. And ask the neighbors to come over and look at him and say no, no, no. And teach him to stomp his foot, too, a little bit, you know. Say no, 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 no. And laugh and say, isn't that cute? Yeah, it's about as cute as a rattlesnake. About as cute as leukemia. About as cute as cancer of the brain. Don't worry, you won't ever have that. You've got to have the brain first. No, it's not cute. Dr. Rice says, when should you spank a child? Make him say yes when he's old enough to say no. That's when. Somebody asked B.B. Krim one day, old hellfire and brimstone preacher down in Texas, how old should a baby be when you spank him? And Brother Dr. Krim said, boy babies are worse than girl babies, so don't spank a girl baby as soon as you would a boy baby. Said, wait 3 weeks to spank the girl baby. Spank a boy when he's born. Now, I'm saying don't spank him, and teach him to say no, and say, isn't that cute? Then when he cries in the bed, when he first comes home, when he cries, go pick him up and rock him. Just rock him till he quits crying. After all, you don't want the poor little thing to cry. By all means, don't do this if you want to rear a bum. By all means, when he cries, you go pick him up, and don't check to see if there's a diaper sticking in, and don't check to see if he's comfortable, and don't check to see if he's wet. Just pick him up. The honest, simple truth is, this boy right over here, he had the habit of butting his head against the baby bed when he was born. That's how he got like he is. And he'd butt his head. And that bed, he'd push that bed all across the room. We didn't have any carpet. He'd push the bed all across the room till he'd get against the wall. He'd keep butting his head. And then he'd cry. And if we didn't come, he'd show us that he'd show us, and he'd try to get me. Now, what he was doing, he couldn't talk what he's saying. I'll get that rascal out of bed. Now, I'll get him in here. I'd go check his diaper and see if a pin was sticking him. You didn't ever know he wore a diaper, did you? But see if a pin was sticking him. And if a pin wasn't sticking him, I'd let him butt his head all night long. And he'd say, I'll get that guy up. And I'd say, no, you won't either. I'll guarantee you won't. And the two stubbornest folks in America today are Jack Hyles and David Hyles, I guarantee you. But I excellest them all. And let him cry. Let him cry. Unless you want to rear a bomb, and then you pick him and rock him, and don't let him cry. If he cries, that means he's maladjusted. And so you just rock him, and you'll be on your way to rearing a bomb. Oh, by the way, too, be sure and blow smoke in his face as often as you can. You want to smoke your cigarette. You women, pardon me, you females, be sure you puff your cigarettes and blow your cigarette smoke in the baby's face. And you dads, too, by all means. Be sure that you smoke. And somebody said, how's that so-and-so smoke? No, nobody smokes. The cigarette smokes. You're just the sucker, that's all. And so somebody asked, preacher one time said, you think a fella can chew tobacco and go to heaven? Yeah, so they have to go to hell to spit. Well, that's about the same way. I'd hate to have to be reared in a hole where my mama rocked me and blew cigarettes smoking in my face at the same time. The other day I was on an airplane, and I got some matches with me. I just took some matches. I've had folks blow smoke in my face all I can take it. I just took some matches and got me some wood, a little wood. And a fellow beside me crossed over here, lit up a cigarette, and the thing was blowing toward me. And I just got me a piece of wood and a match out and lit up some wood and just let it burn right there. The smoke was pointing, his smoke was coming toward me, and my smoke was going toward him. He looked at me, and I looked at him. He looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, I'll quit if you will. He said, you got yourself a deal, buddy. He didn't smoke a cigarette all the rest of the way. Now, if you want to make your kid become a bum, teach him. Oh, tell him not to smoke, but tell him that daddy smoked. The honest, simple truth is, my friend Hoyt Lemon was on an airplane, and a fellow beside him was smoking and smoke coming over. And you folks that smoke, you can't imagine how miserable that smoke is, those of us that don't smoke. And Hoyt Lemon, my friend, was on an airplane, and they served lunch. And Hoyt Lemon, who's a pastor, he looked over to the guy that's smoking a cigarette and said, I think I'll spit in your water. And the fellow said, you'll do what? He said, I think I'll spit in your water. Well, he said, why? He said, you're polluting my air, I'll pollute your water. Now, so if you want to rear a bomb, by all means, you teach that child it's okay when he gets old enough to smoke. And that way, you'll have cigarettes laying around the house, and he can find your cigarettes when he's 7 or 8 or 9, and who knows, he might be a bum earlier than you think. And then, of course, if you want to rear a bum, be sure don't get him a haircut till he's at least a year old. Let him grow long, curly hair, the ringlets, especially if he's a blonde. Make him look like Gorgeous George before he's a year old. And let him grow long, curly hair. That may help him become not only a bum, but that may make him a homosexual, too. Well, you know. He said, I don't like your preaching. I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. But he said, I don't believe what you're saying. You're a proof of it. Let him look like a little girl. And then, by the way, don't put pants on him, trousers, when he's a little bitty baby. Put a diaper shirt on him. Or put a dress on him. I'll bind you one thing. That boy right there has never worn a dress, unless it's since he got married. The other day, Karen and Ray Popper came by from the hospital. Were taking their baby home from the hospital. Hadn't been home yet last Wednesday. And brought the baby by the office. Karen's on our staff. Brought the baby by the office. Let us see the baby. Little rascal had blue jeans on. Yeah. Sweet little girl, too. Had blue jeans on. I mean, a boy's shirt. And a good-looking haircut. And by the way, a lot of hair, too. No joke. A lot of hair. And a good-looking haircut. And you could tell. I mean, he was less than a week old, but you could tell he was a boy. It's more than you can tell about some of you its hanging around this church tonight. I've said before, I'll say it again. Some of you girls go out here and meet some of these fellas. I guess they're fellas. I think when they run in pairs, they're usually that way. And you bring one in. Listen, our dog at home brings in better-looking animals dead than you bring in here to church sometime. I'd be ashamed of myself if I were you. Now, want to rear a bum? Then let him have his way. Then don't get him a haircut. And tell him how cute he is, because he has real long hair. You look in the mirror and you say, cute. You say, coot, coot, coot. Yeah, cute, cute, coot, coot, cute. Pretty hair. Well, yeah, see my hair, see my hair. Let him do that. And then maybe he'll grow up and be like some of these freaks in the service tonight here. Haven't got enough manhood to get a decent haircut. And haven't got enough masculinity to get a decent haircut. He says, I don't agree with it. You don't have any choice. Folks look like a man. But you say, I am a man. Then prove it. If you want to rear a bum, let him wear dresses. And never spank him. He's too little. And besides, love him too much to spank him. Love him too much. Say, I just love my little one too much to spank him. And by all means, that place that's underneath his diaper, that has no bones that can break, that real flabby place on little babies, by all means, don't ever bruise that. Because the Bible says that if you put stripes on him, he'd grow up and be a decent fella, and you make you proud of him. But if you want to rear a bum, don't ever touch him there. Don't spank him. And let me tell you something right now, and you like this or not, if you don't spank your child, you don't love your child. My Bible says, whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth. And you say, I love him too much to spank him. No, you don't. If you loved him enough, you would spank him. One of the best ways I know to rear a bum is to let him go unspanked. Now you say, preacher, when should a child be spanked? The first time a child says no to you, you ought to get it. That boy right there said no one time in his high chair. Wouldn't eat his green beans. You asked him. I said, you eating those green beans? He looked at me and he didn't say anything, but he spoke in the unknown tongue. And he said, that fellow's not going to make me eat green beans. I'm going to be the boss of my own diet. And I said, you're going to eat green beans. I said, you're going to sit there till you eat those green beans. I think he said, how long? I said, till you're grown. And he'd still be in that high chair. He hadn't eaten those green beans. I was preaching somewhere not long ago, and a preacher said, your boy told us about the green bean story. He said, but told us something you don't know. I said, what? He said, by the time you got through with him, he was going up down the neighborhood asking neighbors if they had any green beans they wanted eaten. And by the way, if you want to rear a bum, don't give him any duties or work. You don't want him to have it like you had it. And you want him to have what you didn't. After all, you had to pick cotton when you were a kid, or you had to work in a grocery store or a service station, or you had to work on the farm, or you had to milk or slop the pigs, or milk the cows, or stack the hay, or go out and gather the corn. You had to bundle the hay. You had to work in the wheat fields, or you had to dig, or you had to hump it hard. And you don't want your child to have to work like that. And that is the best way I know to rear a no-count bum. Hey, if you do that, who knows? You might have a boy that can get a welfare check every month. He might can lay on his blessed assurance with his big pot belly sticking up like an expectant mother, about 7 months along, and lay there and get a welfare check and let you go to the rest home and let you rot somewhere, and he won't take care of you. Now, my mother spanked me. I mean, she spanked me hard. I mean, she spanked me so many times till I said time and time again, I've finished the course, I've kept the faith, I've fought a good fight, henceforth there's laid up for me a crown of righteousness, and not to me only, but all those that love is appearing. She spanked me till I thought the grim reaper was coming. But I bless God for every stripe my little legs had, every bruise my bottom had, every time my mother said, no to me, no! I thank God for every time she did it. And now then, she gets a good-sized check from her son every month. She lives in a nice apartment. She has nice furniture. She eats nice food. She wears nice clothes. And I'll see to it she does. But I'll guarantee you one thing. You go ahead. Now, don't give that child any duties. Don't give him responsibilities. Don't make that girl make up her own bed. Don't make her keep her own room. Don't teach that boy to mow the yard. Don't make him sweat. Don't give him duty. Get him a radio or a stereo. Let him play some rock music. Let him lay in there and roll while you work. And don't you make him do one solitary thing. And you do this. You get ready for a no-count, no-good bomb one of these days. And you get ready to rot in a rest home somewhere. He won't love you. America's full tonight of rest homes dotting this country. And the rest homes are full. Why? Because of parents who said, I'm not going to make my boy go through what I went through. Your boy ought to have to work like you did. Your boy ought to have it rough. Your boy ought to have to sweat. And I taught this boy saw to it. He knew how to shoot a gun. Now, you pacifists, don't get upset. Because if you do, you'll make me upset. And there's nothing I can get upsetter at than a dirty pacifist. And so I taught him how to shoot. He learned how to ride a horse. He learned how to get up before daybreak. He learned how to work all day. And all the rest of the stuff that maybe faults he has, he'll work. And if you want to rear a bomb, you mothers, these girls laying in bed while you're getting a job, while you're doing all the work. The average girl nowadays, when she gets married, she don't know how to iron a dress. She can't cook a meal. She never washed a dish. Never vacuumed the floor. The average boy doesn't know what it is to work and sweat and toil and labor. Go ahead, parents. And by the way, when they're in about the 9th grade, buy them a car and get them a new one. And get them the nicest car you can. And spoil them rotten. And let them go where they want to go. And let them go with a gang. And don't you worry about where they are. You'll rear a bum one of these days. And if he does have duties, go behind him and redo them and tell him that he didn't do a good job, and you do them for him, and then nag at him the rest of the day. And then never teach him the Bible. Let him choose his own religion, of course. That's why he has a right to choose his own religion. And by the way, if you take him to Sunday school and we teach him the 10 Commandments and we teach him how to live right and we teach him the Bible and to believe the Bible's Word of God, don't forget, that's brainwashing. If I had my way, every baby that speaks or cries its first breath in this nation would be brainwashed to believe every word in this book. He'd never have a choice. He'd believe it. Believe it. Now, this dirty crowd that says that don't teach the child the Bible, let him choose for himself. That's the same dirty, rotten, filthy, stinking crowd putting those books in our public schools like I talked about a while ago. They don't mean that. The biggest brainwash in the world is being done by these that say we're brainwashing our children. You better know it. We're brainwashing our kids to believe that liquor is wrong. We're brainwashing our kids to believe that dope is wrong. We're brainwashing our kids to believe that premarital sex is wrong. We're brainwashing our kids to believe that playboy philosophy is wrong. We're brainwashing our kids to believe in heaven and hell and decency and patriotism and America and honor and respect for parents and respect for authority. And we intend to keep on brainwashing like that. And I hope under God we can get enough preachers and enough brainwashing preachers and brainwashing churches and brainwashing parents to lick this crowd and out-brainwash this crowd, teaching our children to go lewd and free sex and free love and playboy philosophy and nakedness and short wearing and mixed bathing and pant wearing and adulterous kind of living. I hope we can brainwash our kids not to believe that dirty crowd, so they'll be good, decent citizens and not bums like some of you folks turning out. And by the way, too, if he isn't cute, when he gets where he's not cute anymore, don't tell him you love him. By all means, don't let that boy know you love him. And you'll rear a bomb. Now you listen to me. There's not a preacher in America that does more counseling than I do with young people. There never comes through the door to my study a young man. Never. Who's in trouble, who's a rebel. But when I ask him if he's close to his dad, he bows his head, and usually a tear comes in his eye, and often the strongest rebels sob openly. That guy around your house messes up the bathroom floor and leaves the ring around the bathtub and leaves the towels on the floor. That guy is hungry for love. He may not look like it. Young man sent off to the day. One of our boys goes to our church. I'm sure he's here tonight. One of our finest families. Boy said to me, I'm 16. I said, does anybody love you? I said, does your mother love you? He said, I don't think so. I said, does your father love you? Now, they're probably in this room tonight. He said, no, sir. I said, does anybody love you? He said, I don't know. Maybe, he said, I have a relative out west who loves me. That same boy said, when he gets older, gets out of Hammond Baptist, he's not going to go to church anywhere. He doesn't like our rules. All in the world that boy would need it is 16 years of somebody to love him. I don't mean love him enough to spoil him, love him enough to discipline him. But when they discipline, let him know he's loved. They sit in my office by the dozens and scores a year. Life is wasted. Life is ruined. Trouble, rebels. Hunger for love. Hunger for love. If I had a quarter for every time I spanked that boy, I could retire. But he's never lived a day of his life he didn't know his dad loved him. Never. 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 As long as I'm sane, he never will. Why? Because I love him and he's going to feel it. You want to rear a bomb? Be sure to defend him in school. Run up to the school every time your boy's spanked and tell the teacher off. By all men, I better make a real mental note of this one, because this is vital in rearing a bomb. I mean, if this man over here in the grade school, Dr. O'Clair, if he does something that spanks your boy, I mean, you get in the hut and you run up there and you tell it, you're not going to lay your hand on my boy. I wish you'd tell me that one time. I'd lay my hand on you. Get ready. Get ready. We've had people in this church threaten to hit some of our teachers. And by the way, the same boys they're defending have caused trouble in every school they've been in. Now, I'm not mad at you. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you rear a bomb. Some of you don't need this sermon. You're doing a good job already. Some of you have your Ph.D. in this. Some of your parents do too. But if you want to rear a bomb, every time a teacher, by the way, don't forget this. Those teachers have it in for your child. Don't forget that. I know. I talked, and this man right here, he's got it in for your child. I know. So anytime your child, if he spanks your child, you come, go up there, and I'll stand right beside you. And I'll pronounce the bum degree on your child. You go up there and let him have it. And holler so everybody in the school can hear you. And threaten to whip him. He's not any bigger than a piece of macaroni, so you can do it. Whip him. You're a fool. I said you're a fool. If you don't call me a fool, I already have it. It's too late to take it back. You're a fool. My mother used to say to me, and I went to a public school because we didn't have anything but that. My mother used to say to me, she'd say, son, when you get a spanking at school, I don't want to know why. Just come home with your pants down, because you're going to get another one. My mother never used to say to me, son, tell me what happened. She made things happen. She never said, explain your side of it. Yeah, I ain't never had no side. But I don't want you to do that, because you're trying to rear a bomb. I want you by all means to defend your child. Trust him. And say it. I trust my child. Say it loud. Look in front of the mirror and practice it. I trust my child. I can't do it as well as some of you folks can because you've been practicing so long. If you want a rear bum, go on up and listen. In case anybody here doesn't want a rear bum, you just decide that it's the best thing to trust authority. And the teacher does not have it in for your child, and Eau Claire here does not have it in for your child, and the principal of the high school does not have it in for your child. And if somebody does do a little something that is wrong to your child, you will rear a lot better child if you will stand beside the teacher and stand beside the principal. By the way, you want to rear a bum, be sure and criticize the leaders. One of the best ways to go home tonight and criticize this sermon. By all means do that. Make a note of that. Well, many of you won't have to because you do it every week anyway. Make a note of it. Go home and say, who do you think he is? God? That's one of the cutest things you can say, and say it to the crowd. Who do you think he is? God? Practice it. Because you'll rear a real good bum that way. And two, by the way, tell them that, be sure to know this, that this fellow's youth director called I gave him the job. See? Don't forget that. Tell your kids that now. That Dave Hyles, he's just a preacher's son, and the preacher gave him the job, and it's because he's a preacher's son, he got the job. Be sure and tell him that. And you'll rear a good bum. And then not only will he lose his confidence in me, he'll lose his confidence in Brother Dave, Brother Vineyard, and all the rest of us. When he gets in trouble, he won't have anybody he trusts. Because of your long tongue. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. In God's dear name, there's not a man on this platform couldn't make 3 times what he's making if he got out in the executive position. But it so happens every man you see before you tonight loves God and loves your kids and is trying to do something right for them. What you ought to do is stand up for them and say, that's the best youth director in America, and he is. And you ought to say, our preacher loves us, and you listen to him, and you ought to say to it that not one time will there ever be in our house criticism of God's men, and if you'll do that, you'll do more than most anything I know to turn your kids out right. Ivan A. Smith and Glenn have told me time and time again. They have 3 boys. I guess the oldest is not quite 30. All 3 of them have churches averaging over 700 in Sunday school. All 3 of them took churches that had almost nothing. 3 of the finest young men you ever want to know. Ivan May and Glenn have told me several times, said, preacher, we had one rule. We did not always agree with the preacher at our house, but we never let our kids know it. Now, I'm trying to tell you something. Look, go ahead. Run down Dave Hyles. Run down the principals. Run down Mr. And by the way, tell your children Mr. Staub is not qualified to be principal. Don't forget. Include that in your dirty gossip. I mean, let your forked serpentine tongue wiggle that one a little bit too. See? And run down the Sunday school teacher. And by the way, too, tell him that he doesn't have to go to Young Fundamentalist. He can go where he wants to on Sunday night at 5:30 and 6. Let him go where he wants. After all, he's not a slave. Let him go where he wants to go. And let him go where a lot of them go. Last week, a lady who sings in this choir, one of the finest ladies we have, found out her teenage boy has been missing church. And her husband, one of the finest men we have, her teenage boy has been missing church for weeks. And I said to her, and I don't mean to be unkind, but I said to her, I wouldn't walk out on that platform before I first found out where the Hyles kids are sitting. How can any parent let weeks go by not even know where your kid is? Before I'd be that way, I'd have them sit right here on the platform. Or set them down here on the steps somewhere. But if you want to rear a bum, by all means, don't make them, don't discipline them. Don't make them go where they don't want to go. Remind them the pastor's not perfect. Just because it ruins most people, most young people. It won't ruin yours. Yours is different. So your child is different. I mean, sure, it ruins all the other kids to run down authority. I wish you knew how many young people come to us who've had their faith shaken because of critical parents. And they come to the end of their ropes, and they don't know what to do. And by the way, brother, listen to this. Your kid will find out one of these days who loves him and who doesn't. You'll find out. Your kid will find out one of these days old Dave Hyles was his friend. And the preacher was his friend. And old Claire is his friend. One of these days, he'll find it out. And what they do, they come back to us then. And here's what they say. And I've heard it 50 times. And Dave Hyles has heard it. I heard it. They say, we don't know whom to trust. Do you know who shook that faith? A mom, a dad. A mom or a dad. Now, all of us know that none of us is perfect. All of us know that this speaker is imperfect. All of us know that these men on the platform are imperfect. We know that you're imperfect. But you'll be a lot better off not to discuss those imperfections in front of your children. Unless you want to be a bum. Oh, yes, by the way, Mama, scream a lot, too, if you want to be a bum. Scream. Holler at your kid. Ah, you kids! I want you to get your feet cleaned off before you come in this house. I've worked all day trying to clean this house, and you don't appreciate me. Don't forget now. Most of you don't need to practice on that. That'll help you rear a first-class bum. By the way, you can't afford to send them to a Christian school. It's not accredited with a heathen. That'll help you. That's the thing I know. Talk a lot about heathen accreditation. Talk a lot about unconverted people accrediting the school your child goes to. And run down such schools as Hyles Anderson College. Do that a lot. Run down Hammond Baptist Grade School. Run down Bob Jones University. Because Bob Jones University is not accredited, and as far as I'm concerned, I doubt if they ever will be accredited. Except for the fact that the kind of students they turn out, the kind of education they give is 10 times what the best accredited school is. Run them down. But let me say this now. Don't send them to a Christian school. That'll help them become a bum. And talk about how unscholarly it is. And be sure and run down the Christian school. And then also let your child come and go as he will if you want to rear a bum. Don't know where he is. Let him just go and come, run out and get in the car and go when he wants to go and come home when he wants to go. And let him date in the car, too. Let your daughter be alone in the car with a boy. Oh, I'd suggest if you want to make a real bum out of her, start when she's 13 or 14. And start with the boy when he's 14 or 15. Let him have the keys to the car and get it, and let him go anywhere he wants to go, and don't you worry about where he is, and let him in the car. Listen, more adultery is committed in cars than all the motels in America put together. And you parents that let your kids come and go and unchaperoned by themselves in a car, one boy, one girl, you're asking for trouble. He says, oh, but I trust my daughter. Yeah, I know. I know something about it you don't know. She told me something you don't know. He said, why didn't you tell me? I'm telling you right now. You want to rear a bum? Let them date alone in cars. Oh, let me say again, though, don't forget, and I don't want you to forget this thing, criticize tonight when you get home this part of the sermon, too, and that'll help you rear a bum, too. Just buy this tape so you can play it and spit at the tape while you play it. That'll really help. And boy, get in a huff. Who do you think he is? God? Say that. That'll help an awful lot. And then, too, if the preacher calls them down in church, be sure and get mad at the preacher. That'll help you. Because the preacher's in cohorts with the youth director and the teacher, and he has it in for your child, too. I know him. I've got it in for your child. There are 10 families here. I'm after your kids. I'm looking for them, trying to find them all the time. Where are they? I'll get those little devils. Be sure and talk about that a lot, too. I'm after him. Yeah. He embarrassed, and be sure and say, he embarrassed my child in front of the whole church. And by the way, if the child keeps misbehaving, be sure and prepare yourself to get ready for more embarrassment. Amen. You say, Brother House, I wish you wouldn't preach like this. Well, your wisher is not a part of my determiner. Amen. I'm trying to help you. For the first time in my life, I'm trying to help you folks that don't agree with me. I'm trying to tell you how to rear a bomb. I'm trying to give you other ways you can do the job you're doing better. By the way, let him have lots of activities outside the church. Let him be in the Little League. Let him join the Boy Scouts. Or better still, the Cubs. Yeah, let him join the Girl Scouts. That way he can fall in love with some young lady that's a Catholic, and then he can promise to have his kids all reared Catholic. That'd be a big asset to you. So be sure, and don't. By the way, tell him now, son. You don't have to go to youth activities if you don't want to. And if he does wrong, punish him by not letting him go to a youth activity. And run down the teenage soul winning by all means. After all, that's just a bunch of fanatical kids. Run that down. Hypocrite. Brother, if you don't believe in soul winning, you're not even anywhere near a good Christian. Anywhere near. So run down the soul winning. And by the way, if she's a girl, let me go back to that. I don't want to leave that in yet. Let your daughter have a lot of activities where unconverted boys hang around. That way she can bring one of these mops into church on Sunday night. And that way she can go to his church on Sunday morning and learn to sing a sevenfold Amen, the Gloria Patri, and a formal service, and she can get used to a preacher wearing a kimono then. So when are you going to quit being so crude when you preach? As soon as you get through being crude while you're living? Some kind of language some of you can understand. So, by all means. And then, if it's a girl, be sure and tell the girl often you don't see anything wrong with wearing pants. That's really a good one. Well, you say, I don't. Well, then be sure and tell her. Often. Well, you say, well, I don't agree with it. No, I'm telling you to do it. I'm trying to help you rear a bomb. Now, take notes on it because you want to do a good job. By the way, when I preach against females wearing pants, I'm not preaching anything that every preacher didn't preach as fundamental 20 years ago. We say, what's so important about her wearing pants? I'll tell you what's important. You happen to have a man of God that says you ought not to do it, and even if you don't agree, you ought to give the man of God at least that much respect. But be sure and tell her that he's not God. And oh, yes, by the way, too, sign that statement at Hammond Baptist not to listen to rock music, but tell the child to overlook that because rock music's okay. And while you're at it, think of all the other communist things you can have him do, too. I mean, tell him that, okay, we signed the paper, but we're going to be big liars. And maybe he can grow up and be as big a liar as you are. And then, too, all the while, don't forget this underlying thing. Be sure and criticize a preacher. I'm going to be real proud of some of you folks tonight because the biggest thing in my sermon is to criticize the preacher and the leaders, and I'm going to be real proud of you because most of you are going to do what I say for the first time in a long time. Rehoboam. And then two, don't forget, only an accredited school, college, where the heathen and the communists no more than the sincere, sacrificial, sweet, dedicated college teachers and Christian colleges. Oh yes, and be sure your child is popular. Don't make your child do anything that might endanger his or her life or comforts. I'm going to tell you something right now. My daughter's as precious to me as yours are. And for years and years and years, since they were 13 years of age, they've gone all over Chicago witnessing in dangerous places. And I'd rather my daughter be a soul winner in a dangerous spot than be a disobedient Christian and not be in a dangerous spot. I've seen Linda and Cindy go over here in the South Chicago area and witness and win folks to Christ and carry the gospel, when I cringe when they win. Be sure and criticize the soul winning. Get your child popular. And be sure you get to the place where you can't stand to see your child persecuted. Oh yes, don't say anything much about long hair on the boys. And remember one thing. Remember our motto, bums. Don't forget our motto. The outside is not important. Don't forget. That's our motto. We should all say it together. The outside is not important. The outside is not important. And then your child can grow up with a stupid-looking outside and be one of the best long-haired bums in the world. You say, Brother Hyles, are you insinuating that if I have long hair and shaggy clothes, I'm a bum? I don't ever remember when I insinuated. I just say it. You know, one of the good things about preaching like I do, you don't have to remember what you said last time. I never have to stop and say, what did I say? Because I said last time what I say this time. And in case you're getting weary of these sermons, there'll be a next time too. And a next time. And a next time. And a next time. Oh yes. Don't forget this. Be sure and take somebody out to eat with you tonight after the service, so when you criticize the sermon, they can hear it too. That's one of the best ways. That is a surefire way to rear a bomb. I mean, have some folks over to your house and get close to some families in the church. And together run down Dave Hyles or Jim Vineyard or Eau Claire or Billings. Get together and do it. And talk about all the faults you know about all of us. Now look, folks, if you're going to do it, don't just do it alone. Do it where it can do some good. I mean, look, have a party at your house. Have a pizza party or a spinach party or something at your house. And just talk and criticize and gossip and lie and backbite. That's as sorry as the hell from which it came. That'll help you to rear a bomb, though. I'll bind you something. I'll bind you something. You take the people in this church or any other church in America who do that, and I'll guarantee you check their kids, you ask the pastor, you ask the teacher, you ask the principal, you ask anybody over them, and their kids are always the worst kids in the church. Strange thing about it. Same kid can go to the grade school and give the teacher a fit. And when the year's over and your child graduates to the next grade, the teacher has a party, rejoicing. And the teacher that gets your child wears black And a veil. Now, all the way through grade school. And then the Sunday school teacher has trouble, and then the youth director has trouble, and the pastor has trouble, and the bus folks have trouble, and the junior high has trouble, and the Sunday night teacher has trouble, and the choir director has trouble. All of them have trouble. And then you can say, they're all have got it in from my darling. Two things wrong with that. In the first place, you ain't got no darling. In the second place, if you had any sense, I mean that now. Look, I'm trying to help you. God knows I am. I can't, most of you, some of you, I can't do it. But I can wash your kids' blood off my hands. There are kids in this church with whom I've met week after week after. Girls over here, hey, sit still while I'm preaching. You've laughed enough tonight. On the fourth row, girl in the white sweater, looks innocent right now. Yeah, one right looking there. That's it. It's amazing. Kids misbehave all night. And that's it. There you go. I know I've been criticized more for the kids I've spent more time with. I've been the parents of the kids I've spent more time with than anybody else. So be sure that you get your neighbors all over. And by the way, if your son got 50 demerits or got expelled from school, by all means, get the whole neighborhood over and talk about it. And don't wait till tomorrow. Do it tonight. Look, don't put off rearing this bomb. After all, you want this kid to grow up and be like you. You're going to have to do a good job. You say, you mad at me? No, I'm not mad at you. I'm trying to shake some sense in your head, one way or another. I've cried, I've gotten up here and begged and pleaded, my heart's broken behind this pulpit, and now I'm trying to use a little satire, reach out and shake some of you parents and make you stop to realize that you're rearing a low-rate bomb right now, and in some cases 2 or 3, and if you don't do something to spank that kid and put that kid to work and discipline that kid and stand for authority, your kid's going to go to the devil. I may not can salvage some of these older ones, but I'm trying to get down to you mothers and dads that have children 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, 6 and 7 years of age, and I'm trying to get you to start while these kids are young and do what the Bible says and do what is preached from this pulpit, and so we can salvage the heartbreak and prevent the heartbreak we could have out in a few years if we don't do what we ought to do now while they're little. And by all means, desire to be anything but a nut. Be careful about the bus ministry. Don't let your children get too interested in soul winning. And then, I'd suggest tonight when you get home, you pick up the telephone, call long distance to the nicest rest home you know of and reserve yourself a place. Because you'll be there one of these days. I can't make you believe what I'm preaching, but I'll guarantee you, you will. I'll guarantee you, you will. Four kids grew up at my house. 4 kids. They're not perfect. You'll let me say this, and 3 of them are here tonight, and 1 of them will hear this on tape. And you let me be a little vain for a few minutes. But they all think old Dad's pretty hot stuff. You know why they think that? Because old Dad's pretty hot stuff. Now, by the way, use that tonight, too, while you're out in your groups. That'll be good conversation. He thinks he's hot stuff. No, I don't think I'm hot stuff, but I'm hotter than you are. That's the stuff you are. You're stuffier, but... Yeah, they think their dad's a pretty good fella. And every one of our kids, when they were in high school, if the teacher taught, in public school, if the teacher taught evolution, they sort of figured Dad knew more about that than the teacher did. One thing, they thought that Dad was there when God created the world. You know, that's how old he was. There's a way, folks, that your children can rise up and call you blessed. There's a way. And there's a way that they can leave you mighty lonely. There's a way that you can moisten your pillow night after night after night with a broken heart and say, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Now, some of you have children 3 years of age. They're already on their way to becoming bums. Already. I did this so often on the airplane. I was on the airplane the other day again. Right up in front of me was a little devil, rocked by a demon. Great big old dad, about 6'4" tall, weighed at least 225 pounds. Little old kid weighed less than 20 pounds. Had that fella tied in knots. He'd say, no. The dad would say, would you want an ice cream? No. Scream and holler and beller and scream. And everybody on the plane was exasperated. And I just got up and sat down beside the dad. Kids in the middle seat, eyes over here, and Dad's next to the window. I said, I can help you if you want me to. Dad said, the kid just bellowing and hollering and screaming. Dad said, what do you mean? I said, I can quieten your kid for you. Dad said, what would you do? I said, I haven't said that yet, but I can quieten the kid. I said, I can make everybody on this plane like you instead of feeling like I do towards you right now. He said, what would you do? I said, I just don't ever lay my plans out before I perform, but I can quieten the kid for you. I've done this 25 times on an airplane. And the dad said, well, I think I can take care of it. Ah! Maybe you better go ahead and try it, he said. I just looked over at the kid. And the kid went. And the kid said, I'm going to try this crying again. Hush! Help! That little kid didn't move nothing but his eyeballs the rest of the trip.